Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Wyoming GOP House primary, which is occurring on Tuesday, August 16th, coinciding, of course, with the Alaska Senate primary. And these two primaries are kind of seen as really the last two impeachment Republican primaries. Both candidates are in very contentious races. Liz Cheney's in a much weaker position, I think, than Lisa Murkowski, and we'll cover the Alaska primary in tomorrow's video, but today I want to focus mainly on the state of Wyoming and really what we can expect on Tuesday night. So we'll take a look at some election data as well as the polls in the race in just a second, but first, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing down below and liking this video if you enjoy. So anyway, let's get straight into it. So if we take a look at the polling so far for this House primary seat, Liz Cheney's opponent, Harriet Hageman, is currently up by an average of 25 percentage points, according to Real Clear Politics. And Liz Cheney gets about an average of 29%. Now, this was something that really was avoidable for Liz Cheney. The main reason why Liz Cheney is in such a dire position in her primary is because of the stance she took against Donald Trump post-2020 election. Not only did she vote for the impeachment of Donald Trump, but she also chairs the January 6th commission, which a lot of Republicans view as the ultimate slap in the face to the base and really just a poor move politically speaking, because the vast majority of Republicans oppose the commission and still support Donald Trump very strongly. So that's one of the reasons why this is such a lopsided primary. And if we go back early on, even in January of 2021, you had Liz Cheney losing in all of these polls. There was only one poll by McLaughlin and Associates, which actually had Liz Cheney in the lead, but there was a large amount of undecideds. Really, all of the anti-Cheney voters really coalesced behind Hageman. Currently, she's polling at like 59, 54%. So she has a high percentage of the vote. And what's interesting, too, is unlike other primaries where you had a lot of Republicans in Congress sort of stay out of it, many House Republicans have come out to endorse Hageman over Liz Cheney. So you have a couple of Democrats that have come out to support Liz Cheney, and then of course you have Adam Kinzinger. But all of these red districts are Republicans who are endorsing Hageman in the primary and not Liz Cheney. So you didn't really see this much of a opposing force against the other impeachment Republicans. Obviously, a lot of the base was against them, but you didn't really see the establishment congressional candidates really come out against them in the way that they are against Liz Cheney, because she really is the figurehead, of the January 6th commission and things like that. So she's seen as really the ultimate anti-Trump Republican at this point, and that's one of the reasons why this poll is so lopsided against her. Now, one strategy Liz Cheney has been trying to employ in this race, and I don't really think it'll be that effective, but she's trying to win over Democratic votes, because I still think in Wyoming, Democrats or independents, I think, are allowed to vote in Republican primaries. So she's been running these ads talking about how she stood up to Trump, and she's been running ads with her father, Dick Cheney, talking about how Trump is the ultimate threat to the U.S. and things like that. And she's trying to galvanize Democrats in the state of Wyoming to come out and vote for her in the primary in hopes that she can survive and run for re-election. Now, ultimately, I don't think that's going to work. The polling clearly shows that even if that were the case, even if there was a 10-point swing in favor of Cheney, she'd still be down by about 20 points. And, Wyoming is such a red state, to whereas, some Democratic support really wouldn't help her all that much because the Republican base in Wyoming is just so large. In her last election, Liz Cheney won by about 44 percentage points, and Donald Trump won the state by a really large margin as well. So it really goes to show you that Democratic votes in the state of Wyoming, even in a Republican primary, don't mean as much and don't make as much of an impact. Unlike the state of Utah, where I think Democrats voting in Republican primaries is a lot more effective, in a state like Wyoming, it clearly doesn't seem to be the case, and the polling kind of bears that out. Now, obviously, maybe the polling is done with only Republicans, so that's one of the reasons why it could be like this. But again, it's likely voters, so that could include independents and Democrats who became independents to vote for Cheney in this primary. But again, this was all very avoidable. Liz Cheney was in a comfortable position to basically keep winning this House seat as long as she wanted to. Again, her last margin of victory was 44 percentage points in a year where Democrats were up in the popular vote by about 3 points in the House races. So that just goes to show you how red the state of Wyoming is and always has been in recent political history. And if you go back through the rest of her races, she's winning in 2016 by a large margin, 2018, which was a blue wave year, and then of course 2020 was her largest margin yet. So, you know, she would have consecutively won this seat continuously as long as she wanted to run for it. And Cheney had a number of important positions in the House that I think were stripped away from her by the Republicans and Kevin McCarthy. So, you know, she really decided to rebrand herself, not so much as just a Republican member of the House from Wyoming, which, you know, unfortunately for them would be very forgettable, but she wants to be more of a national figure. And I think that's one of the things that the January 6th Commission has kind of established for her. She's this national political figure. Obviously, that's not something Republicans like, since she's, you know, openly criticizing them and criticizing Trump. But, you know, her voting record is still very Republican. You know, she's not an Adam Kinzinger, somebody who is, since 2020, has become much more moderate to even centrist. Liz Cheney still votes basically the party line on everything except January 6th and Donald Trump. That's essentially it. Now, I think Liz Cheney knows deep down that she's probably going to lose this primary. I mean, anyone looking at the numbers objectively would be able to tell you that Liz Cheney is going to lose, and she's probably going to lose by a lot. But I don't think her ambitions end at winning renomination to the House. I think she knows this is a lost cause. I think really what her goal is to try and get involved in 2024. And she's hinted that she's not only against Trump running in 2024, but possibly DeSantis as well. So she's kind of positioning herself, I think, to try and either run for president as some sort of independent, or even perhaps endorse somebody who's running for president as a third party or independent to sort of spoil the race for one of those two Republicans, because there's a very high likelihood in 2024 that the nominee is either Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis. I'd put it at 95%. It's very, very possible. And I think Liz Cheney knows this, and she doesn't really like either of them. So after she loses this House primary, I think she's probably going to go on to, you know, form some national organization like Adam Kinzinger did with his Country First thingy or whatever, and she'll try and position herself in some way to sort of be a conservative or independent against Trump, and perhaps try to spoil the 2024 election for Republicans, because she said, and as well as some other impeachment Republicans said, that they'll do everything in their power to make sure that Donald Trump never gets close to the White House again. And I think part of that would be to try and spoil the race if need be in 2024, because I think Liz Cheney knows that she would never get close to winning a 2024 Republican primary, or really any future Republican primary for the time being. She's not electorally viable, and I think she knows that. I think her only chance is to run as some sort of third party in the hopes that she would take away Republicans that are disaffected from Donald Trump. So I really think that's what lies in Liz Cheney's political future, and ultimately it looks like Hageman is going to win this primary by a pretty large amount. Now, sometimes the polls overestimate the anti-impeachment candidates, and sometimes they underestimate them. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday, but I think it's near certainty, a 100% chance that Hageman wins this primary. I mean, given these numbers, it doesn't look like Liz Cheney has any realistic chance. And what's honestly even crazier is that we could have had a situation where Liz Cheney was actually in the Senate, and then Republicans wouldn't be able to primary her out until 2026, because in 2014, Liz Cheney had actually run for Senate against Mike Enzi, who ultimately she ended up dropping out. But we could have had a situation in which she won this primary somehow and then ended up running for re-election in 2022, winning probably by a landslide, and then going on to 2026. And I think, Republicans would have been very upset if that was the case, but it very well could have happened had Liz Cheney won the 2014 Republican Senate primary. I think many Trump Republicans will see the defeat of Liz Cheney as one of their biggest victories. Obviously, Adam Kinzinger is not coming back to the Congress again. This is something that just highlights the division within the Republican Party. You have the Never Trump Republicans, you have the impeachment Republicans, which have kind of become the Never Trump Republicans. And then you have the Republicans that are, more on the DeSantis wing, still support Donald Trump, but would rather DeSantis run. And then, of course, you still have the Trump supporters. This will play out to be a very interesting dynamic in 2024 in the primary season there, because given all the recent stuff with Donald Trump, we really don't know what's going to happen in terms of a presidential run. He very well could try to run to avoid charges by the FBI and other organizations, or he might decide to stay out, and perhaps that's something that would better suit him. So anyway, that's it for today's video. Please, if you enjoyed, like this video down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you don't miss any more videos I put out. And as always, again, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.